The man I've secretly loved for 10 years was on a video call with me when he fell for my roommate. He even asked me to help him win her over. On the phone, his voice was as deep and pleasant as ever. "I've never liked someone this much before, Jane. Please help me out." But I didn't hear a hint of a plea in his voice. It was as if he already knew I wouldn't refuse him. When it came to me, he always felt he held all the cards. Simon and my roommate were kissing. They were inseparable, lost in a passionate embrace. I stared at the scene, feeling as if a hole had been ripped in my heart. Even though I knew this would happen the moment I agreed to help him, it still hurt like hell. They were so focused on each other that they didn't notice me standing there. Coming back to my place tonight, Simon's voice was raspier than usual in the quiet night. My heart dropped into an abyss at those words. So they had already gotten to that point. My roommate seemed to give him a playful nudge, her voice filled with laughter. "What are you thinking? I promised Jane I'd help her with her thesis tonight." They leaned their foreheads against each other and talked for a while. Even from a distance, the intimacy was palpable. After watching her go upstairs, Simon turned around and finally saw me. "Jane," the smile on his face vanished instantly. I turned my face away, unable to look at him. I tried my best to control my emotions and walked toward the dorm. The scene I just witnessed was too much of a shock. Countless waves of bitterness and resentment surged in my heart. I had stayed by Simon's side as a friend for 10 whole years. I had never seen him show interest in any other girl. To me, he was always cold and rational. He was so detached that I even wondered if he saw me as a genderless playmate. That was the first time I had ever seen him look so infatuated. And yet, they had only known each other for 10 days. Only 10 days. But my unrequited love for Simon had spanned 10 years, encompassing almost my entire youth. I didn't get into the same university as him back then. Later, I retook my exams and finally got in, but a mistake in my application forced me to another city. During college, we barely kept in touch. Now that his career was on track and I was busy with my thesis, our contact was even scarcer. Every time I wanted to visit him, he would refuse without hesitation. "Jane, I'm very busy," he would say. Sometimes I couldn't help but video call him, but he'd hang up after a few words. I knew I had no right to complain. In his heart, I was just an old friend. Until 10 days ago, when my roommate borrowed my phone to take photos. She accidentally scrolled to a photo of Simon in my album. Her fingers paused and she smiled. "This guy is handsome, Jane. Do you know him?" I could see the interest in her eyes. I didn't answer and made a clumsy excuse to leave. Even though I knew they probably wouldn't cross paths, I couldn't sleep that night. A strong sense of crisis washed over me like a tide. My roommate, Chloe, was the undisputed goddess of our department. She was stunningly beautiful, with a look that was both pure and seductive. She had caused a stir ever since she first stepped onto campus. But she always seemed indifferent, keeping people at arm's length. In 4 years of college, no one had really caught her eye. I never expected her to take an interest in Simon just because of a photo. And I certainly didn't expect that, when I finally gathered the courage to confess to him, Simon would fall for Chloe through a phone screen. I remember his eyes lighting up when he saw her in the background of our video call. His sharp features seemed to soften, and his gaze was fixed on her. I knew that look all too well. It was love at first sight. The day after that call, Simon called me and asked for my help to pursue her. "I've never liked someone this much before, Jane. Please help me." That was the first time he ever begged me for anything. It was also the first time he called me Jane with such softness. But I didn't hear any real plea in his voice. It felt like he was certain I would say yes. He was always so sure of himself when it came to me. Realizing this, a heavy sadness spread through my entire body. But what could I do? I couldn't stop him from liking someone else, just as I couldn't stop myself from loving him. As if possessed, I agreed. I agreed to be their matchmaker. Everything followed naturally after that. Because of me, they exchanged numbers and talked until midnight every day. Simon, who always told me he was busy, took 3 days off just to see her. Today was their first official date. Looking at the situation earlier, they were already deeply in love. Sure enough, the moment I pushed open the dorm door, Chloe's voice drifted over. "Jane, he and I are together now." "Oh, that's great," I replied softly. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop, pretending to work on my thesis. It took me several tries just to type a single word correctly. Chloe's voice was full of smiles. "It's all thanks to you, our big matchmaker." My hands tightened on the keyboard, and a sharp pain shot through my heart. Yes, I was the one who brought them together. I was the one who told Simon all of Chloe's likes and dislikes. I was the one who suggested what topics they should talk about. I was also the one who told Chloe that Simon had never been with another woman. Over these 10 days, I watched Simon dote on her. I watched Chloe smile whenever she mentioned his name. I watched them fall in love step by step. Many late nights, I buried my head under the covers but still heard his voice from her phone. "Go to sleep, honey, don't stay up late. Good night." His voice was warm and filled with a tenderness I had never known. In that moment, I realized I regretted it. I wondered if I should have lied to Simon. If I told him she already liked someone else, his pride would have made him give up. Then maybe I would still have a chance. "To thank you," Chloe walked up behind me and put her arm around my shoulder. "Simon and I decided to take you out for dinner tomorrow. You won't say no, right?" My heart skipped a beat, and I wanted to refuse. But she didn't give me the chance. "Simon has to go back to work the day after tomorrow. And I'll be moving in with him once I get my diploma next month. This might be one of the last times the three of us can get together." She leaned her head against my neck, her warm breath brushing against my skin. Jane, this was his idea too. If I had any lingering hope last night, I knew exactly what Simon meant now. At the seafood restaurant near campus, the atmosphere was thick with the scent of salt and butter. Simon was peeling shrimp for Chloe. He lowered his head, his long fingers skillfully removing the shells. He looked so focused. I suddenly remembered that Simon had a thing about germs. He especially hated the slimy feeling of peeling shrimp. Last year on his birthday, I traveled 4 hours to see him. I bought a cake and clumsily made a full table of food, even burning my hand in the process. When Simon saw my red, swollen hand, his expression was complicated. "Jane, if you can't cook, don't do it." But before I could speak, he pulled my hand over and gently applied ointment. He was rarely that gentle with me, and I felt a bit dazed. Looking at the plate of shrimp on the table, I asked him a question. "My hand is hurt, could you peel a shrimp for me?" Simon frowned and refused without hesitation. "Jane, you know I hate that." That one sentence killed the atmosphere. If it were any other time, I wouldn't have cared. But that day, I felt so much grievance that I couldn't stop my tears. In the end, I ignored the pain in my hand and peeled the entire plate of shrimp myself. Simon just sat there in silence, watching me. He looked like he wanted to say something, but he never did. I snapped back to reality and saw Simon placing a peeled shrimp on Chloe's plate. He wiped his hands with a wet wipe and slowly looked over at me. The moment our eyes met, I finally understood. He was doing this on purpose. The small scar on my hand from last year was still there, a reminder of the gap between us. Now, Simon was deliberately ripping open that wound to make sure I gave up for good. He had known about my feelings all along. He invited me to dinner and peeled shrimp for Chloe right in front of me. He was telling me to stop dreaming and stop bothering him. A sharp pain hit my chest, and I looked down, avoiding his gaze. My hands were trembling as I held my chopsticks. The dinner felt incredibly long. No matter how much they showed off their affection, I kept my head down and remained silent. Suddenly, there was a commotion nearby. I looked up and saw a young man blushing as he apologized to Simon. Apparently, his friends were playing Truth or Dare, and he had to ask the prettiest girl for her number. He didn't realize Chloe had a boyfriend. Simon looked furious, but he couldn't cause a scene in public. The guy left awkwardly. I looked at Chloe. She loved seafood, but she couldn't handle spicy food very well. Her face was slightly flushed, and there were tiny beads of sweat on her forehead. She looked radiant. Many people in the restaurant were glancing at her. I noticed a tall, handsome figure walking toward our table. I smiled slightly, feeling a bit of the gloom in my heart lift. Youth is brave. Even after seeing what just happened, someone else wanted to try their luck. I looked at Simon, and his face had darkened again. I put down my chopsticks, ready to watch the drama unfold. Then I saw the young man walk past Chloe and stop right in front of me. I was startled. The guy looked at me with bright eyes. He seemed a bit nervous, but his smile was clean. "Excuse me, could I have your number? I'd really like to get to know you." I froze and subconsciously looked at Simon. His face seemed even colder than before. In that moment, many thoughts and memories flashed through my mind. In this 10-year one-way journey, I had considered giving up many times. I had seen how Simon rejected other girls, coldly and without a hint of mercy. So I kept my love hidden, content to be his gentle and supportive friend. But my passion never received a response. All I got back was his distance and restraint. Over time, the pain and exhaustion of unrequited love nearly crushed me. When I found out I didn't get into the same university as him, my emotions reached a breaking point. For the first time, I wanted to quit. On the day of our graduation party, he didn't show up. A classmate confessed to me afterward. I turned him down, but he still offered to walk me home. I realized his path would take us past Simon's house. For some reason, I agreed. The moonlight was beautiful that night. My classmate tried hard to find things to talk about, and I responded to every word. Until that familiar gate came into view. I stopped and looked up. I saw Simon standing on the balcony, staring down at us coldly. When I got home and checked my phone after a shower, I saw that someone had posted a video of the confession in our class group. The video was noisy, but it showed the two of us leaving together. The students who weren't there were all cheering in the chat. Just then, I received a message from Simon. "Do you want to retake your exams?" I immediately understood the hidden meaning. He wanted us to be at the same university. Even though he didn't say it outright, to me, it was a signal. It was like rain after a long drought, but it also hurt. He always seemed to do that, give me hope just as I was about to give up. So now, after he had a girlfriend and was trying to push me away with this dinner, what did the look in his eyes mean? My breath hitched. Before I could look closer, Chloe suddenly moved, blocking my view. She took Simon's hand and interlaced her fingers with his. Simon seemed startled for a moment, then looked down at her, his expression softening. At that moment, the last bit of hope in my heart was finally extinguished. Strangely, I felt a peace I had never known before. I looked away and turned my gaze back to the young man in front of me. He was even more nervous now that I was staring at him. He repeated his words, stammering, can I pursue you?" The people around us burst into laughter. He hadn't realized his mistake yet. A friend of his shouted with a laugh, "Noah, you're the one confessing. Why are you asking her to pursue you?" He froze, his face turning beet red. I. Yes, I interrupted him. This time, I didn't look at Simon's expression. In the midst of the noise, I stared at Noah. I saw his Adam's apple bob, and the redness spread from his ears to his neck. I smiled and repeated, "Yes." I discovered that Noah was the most easily embarrassed person I had ever met. After I said, "Yes," he grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the restaurant. He took me to the nearest dessert shop and ordered several treats for me. Under my surprised gaze, he gripped his spoon tightly and looked down. After a while, he finally looked up and smiled. "I saw you weren't eating much at the restaurant. They say sweets make you feel better." I looked at him. I realized that during that unbearable dinner, someone had been silently watching me. He saw my unspoken awkwardness and pain. He saw the loneliness I was trying so hard to hide. And he rescued me. I felt something stir in my heart. Eating sweets really did help. I was in a good mood for the rest of the day. In the evening, Noah and I walked on the track field. The wind blew through our clothes, and the sunset was a brilliant orange. Noah carefully took my hand. I looked at him and saw his clean profile and his red ears. My good mood lasted until Simon sent me a text asking where I was. I didn't reply. He didn't ask again. I took a deep breath, feeling as if I was finally exhaling years of pent-up gloom. Noah and I stayed out late before I went back to the dorm. After finishing my thesis and sending it to my advisor, I finally checked my phone. Noah had messaged me at 11:00 p.m. asking if I was free tomorrow. I hesitated and replied, "I'm free." He replied almost instantly, "Okay, good night." I checked the time. It was 3:00 a.m. I stared at the message and smiled. After a glass of milk, I was ready for bed. That's when I noticed Chloe's bed was empty. She didn't come back tonight. The next day, I woke up at 10:00 a.m. While I was putting on lipstick in front of the mirror, I heard the door open. Chloe was back. I looked at my reflection, my eyes calm. The last time I saw them kiss, my heart felt like it was being crushed. But knowing they were together last night only brought a slight ache. I even fell asleep quickly and slept without dreams. I didn't know if this meant I had finally let go of Simon, but it was a good start. I blotted my lipstick and heard Chloe's tired voice. "He went back to the city." I turned around and saw that she was pale and exhausted. I reached out to check if she had a fever, but she pulled away. "I'm fine." I frowned. Chloe stared at me, her voice strained. "Jane, I slept with him." I looked at her and didn't say anything. After a long silence, a complex emotion appeared on her face. "Jane, is there a chance for you and Noah?" I thought about it seriously for a moment. Then I looked into her eyes and smiled. "Yes." Chloe seemed stunned, but then the gloom in her eyes vanished, replaced by a sense of relief. When I went downstairs, I saw Noah waiting for me at the dorm entrance. He had coffee and bagels in one hand and oatmeal in the other. With his broad shoulders and long legs, he looked like a model standing there. He was attracting a lot of attention from other girls. I walked up to him. "How long have you been here?" Noah looked at me, his long lashes fluttering, and he blushed. "Not long." Then he added quickly, "I bought 2 kinds of breakfast. You pick first, and I'll eat the other one." I glanced at the food. "I want the oatmeal." As soon as I said it, I froze. Noah was also stunned. He stared at me, his face turning even redder. I didn't expect Noah to take me to the aquarium. The lighting inside was dim, with fake seaweed and coral lining the walls. Fish swam past the glass tunnels, looking curious. I tapped on the glass, and a transparent jellyfish darted away. I smiled and turned to talk to Noah, only to find him taking a photo of me. I raised an eyebrow and leaned in. "Let me see." It was a beautiful shot, a girl in a white dress, her skin glowing against the blue water. Her hair was slightly messy, in a natural way. He was clearly good at photography. "I didn't know you were such a good photographer." I stopped mid-sentence. Noah's eyes were deep, and he was very close to me. So close that I could feel his tense body and his hot breath. I could smell his clean scent. Suddenly, my face felt hot, and my breathing quickened. Around 6:30 p.m., we took the bus back to school. The window was open, and the wind was howling in my ears. I kept thinking about how Noah's lips almost touched mine at the aquarium. He had pulled away at the last second, breathing heavily. He told me he could wait. I looked at him now, sitting straight and looking ahead like a perfect gentleman. I remembered that I had looked him up on the school forum last night. There were many posts from girls confessing their feelings for him. He was an outstanding student with many awards. "Why do you like me?" I asked suddenly. Noah seemed surprised by the question. I bit my lip. "You're so amazing, why me?" Noah frowned, looking more serious than I had ever seen him. "Jane, why would you think that?" I didn't answer. Noah sighed after a moment of silence. "The first time I saw you wasn't at the restaurant, it was at the aquarium." I was shocked. "The aquarium?" "Yeah," he whispered. "You were holding 2 sticks of cotton candy, waiting for someone." I watched your expression change, from excitement to disappointment. Your eyes were red, but you were holding back tears. Then a little girl ran into you and started crying because she hurt her nose. You knelt down and hurriedly wiped her tears with a tissue. As you wiped her tears, your own started falling too. So the two of you sat there, crying and wiping each other's faces. When you finally stopped, you each ate a stick of cotton candy. Noah paused, and his face turned red again. In that moment you looked, so pitiful and so cute. My face felt hot. I remembered that day. Simon was in town for business and promised to go to the aquarium with me. I waited for hours, only to get a text saying he woke up late and had to catch his train. Simon never changed his plans for me. I looked up at Noah. I had no idea he had seen me then. Noah met my gaze, his eyes soft. Later, I saw you speaking at a seminar, and I found out you were a finance major, 1 year ahead of me. When I got back to the dorm, it was after 9:00 p.m. The room was dark, and Chloe seemed to be asleep already. I didn't turn on the light. I buried my face in my pillow. For the first time, I realized how insecure I had been during the years I chased Simon. Even though I was successful in my own right, his coldness and neglect made me doubt myself. I had been like a silkworm in a cocoon, hiding away from the light. I never expected someone like Noah to come along and tell me, "You're wonderful. Why wouldn't I like you?" I felt a warmth spread through my chest. I took a deep breath and posted a photo Noah took of me on social media. The caption was, "You're wonderful too." A few seconds later, I got a text from Simon. "You took him to that aquarium." Then a second one, "Are you two together?" The jealousy in his words was unmistakable. My heart jumped. And then Simon called me. I stared at the number I knew by heart. In the past, a simple text from him would make my day. But now, I felt a strange resistance. I didn't even want to talk to him. I watched the phone ring for a few seconds and then hit decline. He called several more times, and I declined them all. Finally, I texted him, "I'm in the dorm, your girlfriend is sleeping." That seemed to stop him. In the days that followed, Noah and I grew closer. We ate together, studied together, and went to the movies. Our relationship was at that point where everyone knew, but no one had said the words yet. Meanwhile, things between Simon and Chloe seemed to be falling apart. The honeymoon phase ended abruptly. Chloe acted like everything was fine, but I heard her crying at night. I guessed it might be because of me. After some hesitation, I unblocked Simon and called him. He answered immediately. His voice was raspy. "Jane, you finally answered." I felt a bit dazed. I used to say those exact words to him. Back then, I was desperate and humble, throwing away my dignity for him. Fortunately, someone had pulled me out of that hole. I thought of Noah's kind face and smiled. "Jane, are you there?" Simon's voice was even raspier. "Simon," I said calmly, "I loved you for 10 years. There was a heavy breath on the other end. "I know." Even though I suspected he knew, hearing him admit it still stung. Not for him, but for my wasted youth. But after that dinner, I realized I don't love you anymore. I've found someone I want to hold on to. "Simon, we should both cherish the people next to us." Simon was silent for a long time. Finally, he asked in a certain tone, "Jane, are you with him just to get back at me?" I felt a blockage in my chest. I wasn't guilty, I was just frustrated. How lowly did he think of me? Did he really think I would sacrifice my own happiness just for revenge? I unblocked him just to hear this. I blocked him again immediately. One night, as Noah was walking me back to the dorm, I tripped over a stone. Noah caught me before I could fall. But I felt a sharp pain in my ankle. "Did you sprain it?" Noah looked worried. I nodded. He sat me down on a bench and checked my ankle. "It's not dislocated. Let me massage it for you." His cool fingers touched my ankle, and I felt a tingle go up my leg. I let out a small gasp. Noah's Adam's apple bobbed. My face was burning. The pain started to fade. It doesn't hurt anymore. My voice was a bit hoarse. Noah looked up at me. Under the moonlight, his eyes were deep and focused. In that moment, I realized I was a goner. I don't know who started it, but suddenly my arms were around his neck, and his hands were on my waist. That was our first kiss. It was passionate and lingering. When he finally pulled away, he was breathing hard. Jane. He whispered my name, and my last bit of restraint snapped. Just as I was about to say something, a hand grabbed my arm and pulled me off the bench. I cried out in pain. I turned around and saw a pair of red, angry eyes. It was Simon. He looked furious, as if I had betrayed him. It was ridiculous. He was used to my unconditional love. Now that I was no longer humble, he couldn't handle it. He wanted to keep me in his reach, but didn't want to give me anything in return. He couldn't stand to see me happy with someone else. My arm hurt where he was gripping it. I tried to pull away, but he held on tighter. He glared at Noah with pure hatred. I stepped in front of Noah. Simon froze. Jane, we've known each other for 10 years. You've known him for how long, and you're protecting him. Noah is my boyfriend, I said coldly. Simon stood there, paralyzed. You're hurting me, I reminded him. He slowly let go. As soon as he did, my ankle gave out, and I fell into Noah's arms. A sharp pain shot through my bone. I realized my ankle was actually dislocated this time because of Simon's pull. I wanted to laugh, and I did. Simon saw my ankle and looked lost. I'm sorry. I ignored him. Noah, take me to the hospital. Noah nodded and knelt down. Get on my back. As I climbed onto Noah's back, Simon reached out but stopped. His fingers trembled. Jane, I'll drive you to the hospital. No thanks, I said without looking back. As we walked away, I glanced back once. Simon was standing there in his white shirt and black trousers, looking utterly alone. At the hospital, the doctor set my bone and gave me some medicine. He told me to rest for 2 weeks. My face was red as we left the hospital. Noah carried me on his back. Jane, why don't you stay at my place for a while? I was shocked. With you. I mean, your dorm is on the 4th floor, and you can't climb stairs. My apartment has an elevator. I can take care of you during the day. And at night, I'll stay in the dorm. My face was on fire. I whispered, okay. When we got back to the dorm entrance, Simon was still there. He looked like he wanted to say something, but I turned my head away. Jane, Noah said as we passed him, just pack a few things. I have everything else at my place. I saw Simon's body flinch. Okay, I replied. Chloe wasn't surprised when I told her I was moving to Noah's place. Noah is a good guy, she said. She looked better now. I asked her about Simon. We broke up, she said calmly. The night he called you 13 times, I realized he didn't love me. I dumped him the next day. I was stunned. 13 times. I hadn't seen them because I didn't answer. I saw your old ringtone was love story for him, she added. I nodded. I had changed it to go away before blocking him. Chloe looked at me. Jane, he doesn't deserve my love, and he definitely doesn't deserve yours. Noah was an amazing caretaker. After 2 weeks at his place, I had gained weight from his cooking. I looked at myself in the mirror and sighed. Noah was peeling an orange for me. He had lost weight from running back and forth between his place and the dorm. I need to go on a diet once my foot is better, I complained. Noah just laughed and fed me a slice of orange. One night, it was raining hard. As Noah was about to leave with his umbrella, I spoke up. Don't go tonight. Noah froze. He looked at me for a long time. Okay, he said, his voice husky. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by thunder. Noah was sleeping soundly next to me. I noticed the window wasn't closed properly. My foot was almost healed, so I walked over to close it. I looked down and saw a familiar figure standing in the rain. It was Simon. He was leaning against a lamppost, smoking a cigarette. I knew he only smoked when he was extremely agitated. He had been showing up near Noah's place every weekend. Simon saw me, but I didn't want to look at him anymore. I closed the window and drew the curtains. Then my phone rang on the coffee table. It was an unknown number. I answered it after a moment of silence. Jane, Jane. Simon's voice was desperate and lost. I felt a sudden sadness. Not for him, but for our lost youth. I thought of the lyrics to Love Story, 'cause we were both young when I first saw you. We were so young back then. I had worshipped him like a god, and he had treated me like an option. But now, those feelings were completely gone. "Simon," I said, "I really, really loved you once. But now I really, really don't love you anymore." I hung up and went back to bed. Noah pulled me into his arms. "I heard a new breakfast place open nearby. They have great pancakes." His voice was calm, but I could tell he was a little jealous. I laughed and hugged him. "No, I don't want pancakes. I want oatmeal."